Good evening and welcome to the February 14th, 2023 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends and Daily Record newspapers, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for our individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all of the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen.
We can just get Chris Stapleton to come and sing.
Yes.
Yeah.
He goes
Great.
He was awesome.
Clerk will please call the roll.
Mr. Dreesy?
present.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
I am here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mayor Cole?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next on the agenda is a presentation, swearing of the new police officer, Hector Alcantara. Did I say it right? All right.
All right.
Wow.
Good job, Mayor.
Good evening. Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you to the council, Mayor Cole, Township Manager Brewer, for keeping us moving along and having a full department with 32 strong. I want to thank neighboring departments that came to see Hector be sworn in. Riverdale, Pompton Lakes says a lot about, you know, the kind of guy he is and the character of a person that we're hiring, young man. First, I want to talk real quick about the officer that left us to make room for Hector. That was Patrolman Dan Caffrey. Dan Caffrey served the town for 20 years. He served mostly in the capacity of a patrol officer. Probably about 14 of those years he was a senior officer on a shift. It was like having a second sergeant on any shift that he was on. He was reliable, he was smart, he was really good at the job that he did. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight because as soon as he left for Florida. So, and,
Smart man.
He started a little bit later in his life, and he wanted to get that second life started, so he decided to take his 20 and go. So best of luck to him. I just want to thank him for his service to Pequannock Township and the citizens of Pequannock Township. So I'll just give him a little clap. All right, on to our new officer. Step on up. And for the council, I'd just like to always give a little bit of a background on each officer as we hire them, so they know the kind of person that we went through a process for and hired. Patrolman Hector Alcantara was born in Mexico City, Mexico, and immigrated to New Jersey with his family in 2000 at the age of 5. Upon settling in New Jersey, he and his family spent time living in both Pompton Lakes and Wayne, and he eventually graduated from Wayne Hills High School in 2013. After high school, he attended and graduated from William Patterson University with a bachelor's degree in finance. During his time at William Patterson, he became a full-time dispatcher for the Pompton Lakes Police Department, where he's worked for the last 6 years. Also during that time, he attended the Passaic County Police Academy as a Class 2 Special and completed that about 2 years ago. He continued to work for Pompton Lakes in that capacity. Patrolman Alcantara, his passion is Muay Thai fighting, and he's traveled to Thailand to train. He's very impressive with that. I've seen him myself at the gym hitting the bag. I personally would say I wouldn't mess with him. Because of the proximity between Pequannock and Pompton Lakes, some of our officers had already heard what an outstanding young officer Patrolman Alcantara is. Once we started this interview process, it was clear from the very first of 4 interviews that he was going to be tough to beat. In the next 3 interviews, he continued to shine, and it was clear to me that he was going to be our newest officer. I want to thank Chief Derek Clark from the Pompton Lakes Police Department for allowing us to interview Patrolman Alcantara. I also want to thank him for providing him with an outstanding base of law enforcement knowledge that he's going to bring to our department. Patrolman Alcantara is joined tonight by his mom, Maria. And Maria, you could come on up. She brought a picture of Patrolman Alcantara's dad. Going to bring that up?
Yeah.
Yep. Who passed away just 2 years ago, and I know he's really proud of Hector tonight. She's going to be holding the Bible for the swearing in, so we're going to get going, all right? Ready, Dan?
I understand this is Pequannock's gain and Pumpkin Lakes' loss, so we appreciate everything that Pumpkin Lakes did for us. We are happy to have our newest officer. All right, you're going to raise your right hand, put your hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Hector Alcantara,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same,
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United
and
States
to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties
all the duties
of Officer of Pequannock Township Police Department,
of Officer of Pequannock Township Police Department,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Hector.
Congratulations, Mom.
Congratulations. Welcome aboard, sir.
If Hector's family wants to come up for some pictures, come on up. I'll be more than happy to do the photography.
We got pictures. You got the house like that.
Can you take one of these?
Go ahead, folks. If you guys want to get in, go ahead.
Is anybody here from the Rotary? Oh, we got it, Rep. Pequannock Valley Rotary. So for the last 25 to 30 years, the Pequannock Valley Rotary has been gracious enough to donate the first vest for each officer that we've hired. They probably donated, I would guess, over $50,000 in that time. In this case, Hector, being a new officer in Pompton Lakes, he got a brand new vest, and Chief Clark over in Pompton Lakes said, hey, you guys can take that vest with the outer carrying probably a value of $1,500. He said, just give me $500, and the Rotary was nice enough to cover that cost for us. So I want to thank the Rotary for continuing to do what you guys do. Take a picture with us.
Rotary, go ahead now. Get over there. Thank you very much. Everybody go back. Everybody go
Ready? Just right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
You're hired. We have one more presentation, but if the police officers want to leave, you can go ahead and leave.
Alrighty.
Don Couzer's coming.
But it can't be here. Yeah, but he couldn't be here because he couldn't.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hector. Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mom.
We have one more presentation. It's for Don Couzer's 90th birthday. Don Couzer celebrates his 90th birthday on February 18th, 2023. And whereas Don served years on Pequannock Township Councilman and as the 1974 mayor of Pequannock Township. And whereas Don is an avid outdoorsman who champions causes including Parks and Rec, the conservation of resources, flood control, which continues to benefit the residents of Pequannock now and for many years to come. And whereas Don was the founder of Aquatic Park, and whereas through his efforts, organizations with strength in our community, including the Aquatic Park Commission, Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, the Environmental Protection Committee, the Youth Advisory Committee were created. And whereas Don and his wife Arlen were married in 1954 and in 1956 moved to Pequannock Township where their 4 children, Diane, Janie, Wendy, and Donald, enjoyed the happiest of childhood. Now, therefore, Mayor David Cole and members of the Pequannock Township Council hereby congratulate Don Couzer on his 90th birthday and thank him for all the gifts he has given our community. Happy birthday, Don.
Happy birthday.
All right,
And just so everybody knows, we're going to send Don a clip from the, because he wasn't able to make it here tonight. Next on the agenda are reports and comments from any volunteers serving our community. Seeing none. Next on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional public comment period will be reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Mr. Scangarella.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Frank Scangarella. I'm here this evening. I live on 93 Gettysburg Way in Lincoln Park, New Jersey. I'm here representing Jersey Towing. As many of you and all of you know, that Jersey Towing was approved a towing license in January of this year. But just to give me 2 minutes, perhaps not more than 3, I'd like to just go through the history of this business's position in this municipality, and it's working in good faith to meet the standards of the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And ultimately, I'm actually here to speak to Resolution 2023-67, which is to provide 3 additional licenses for towing in the town. As I mentioned, my client has been very patient, cooperative, and working with the town over the past 4 years, each year being denied a license because it was not compliant with the zoning ordinance in effect. Each year, my client also mentioned to the town that virtually every other applicant and licensee in the town was being approved in violation of the ordinance, insofar as there are no approved zones in town for those activities. So as a result, for the past 4 years, my client really hasn't had any economic, really zero economic activity associated with towing. And finally, in 2022, they undertook, as you can imagine, a very expensive process, especially in hiring me, to get a use variance approval through the zoning board, and we were fortunate to be able to do that. And we made sure that we did it in a manner that was compliant with the scheduling requirement and all the other requirements of the ordinance. Finally, in January of 2023, as I alluded, my client was approved the license, and the resolution states that there were only 2 applicants that complied with the zoning ordinance. Apparently, sometime after that, there was greater consideration for addendums or additions to applications, and the application schedule was actually extended, contrary to what the prior practice had been, and additional applicants were permitted to come in. Needless to say, my clients are somewhat frustrated because they've complied with all the rules, and each year have waited their turn to try to be able to get compliant with the laws. And now before us tonight, there is a resolution to approve 3 additional licenses. So after having complied with all the requirements in January, I think my clients, and I in particular, were specifically gratified that finally the municipality was going to hold everyone to the same standards, and that they weren't going to make exceptions for non-compliance for any of the other towers in town. And when you look at the resolution before you tonight, it appears that that sense of relief is short-lived. The resolution before you tonight basically states that the 3 applicants were in compliance with the ordinance, as well as the schedule for applications, when in fact that couldn't have been the case, because we know that the application schedule was completed, the prior 2 applications were approved, and there is a limitation of 4 licenses for all applicants in the town. The resolution also provides that, well, we've never contemplated more than 4 applications. And that doesn't seem to be the way the ordinance and application process has been applied in the past, because my client was advised as recently as December, they said, no. As soon as we exceed 4, you can't apply. So the practice of the town was to basically apply what's normally viewed as a reasonable manner for applying licenses, which is you approve them as they're accepted in the absence of any criteria. And that's in fact what's been the case in the town. But now the resolution says, well, we're going to make an exception again because more people have applied, so we're going to make exceptions to the existing ordinance. It would be understandable to do this on a going forward basis in 2024, to amend the ordinance and make these changes. But now to do this retroactively for those folks that have applied and have not complied with the application, to now bring them in, is nothing more than underscoring to my clients that no matter how patient they are, no matter how much they comply with the rules, there's always going to be someone to find an excuse to allow the other folks to come in. And after waiting 4 years to be one of the 2 entities that really complied with the rules, to now open the door again and say, well, we want these other folks to come in and we'll change the rules to allow them to do that, just to us doesn't seem fair. So with that, we would hope you would consider our position relative to the resolution. The last issue, too, in terms of noncompliance, is there are accommodations for towers to store vehicles in other towns, but at least one of these applicants doesn't comply with other provisions of the zoning ordinance. Namely, they're storing towed vehicles on a site that doesn't permit it. And for the board, for the council to approve that applicant would seem to me to fly in the face of really what this exercise is all about, which is to ensure that these businesses are compliant with the ordinance in effect, and understand sitting behind all this are my clients who really have done everything in their power to act in good faith. And this is another example to them how, you know, finding that they're approved, they're the only two to be approved in town, and now they're finding that additional applicants have now come forward, and we're changing the rules so that they can be permitted to apply. So I appreciate your comment, your patience, and thanks very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Next on the agenda is the, Mr. Rustic, did you want to say anything about that or not?
If you'd like, we can. I can certainly comment on it. We, to the best of my knowledge, all 5 applications were submitted in 2022. When we approved the first 2, that was a statement the council was certainly aware, and I think it was made public at the meeting as well, that there were others under consideration, and those 2 had, the first 2 had met the criteria by the January date, so they were approved. Administration then, Mrs. Marsh, and did the follow-up to be sure that everything came in. Once it came in, the remainder of the applicants were then included. And that's what's on for tonight, as we did with council discussion. As we also discussed, and as administration recommended, we had nothing in our ordinance that addressed what happens if we had more than 4 compliant applicants for this year. How we would go about selecting between them. And there's a variety of ways one could select. One could say first come, first serve in terms of filing your application. We didn't say that in our ordinance. One could say the first awarded the application, the first to get everything in, first 4 to get everything in, are the ones that we awarded to. We also didn't say that. The administrative recommendation to the governing body, therefore, was for this year, since we didn't have a good policy in place for what would happen, we would approve of the extra license, and then we're amending the ordinance also on for tonight, which starting next year, the ordinance will provide that if we have more than 4, we will do the clerk's office will do either pulling of straws or pulling out of a hat, some objective way to determine who would be awarded the license. So for that reason, the administration had recommended, and the clerk's office had worked through a process whereby we have 2 resolutions. We awarded the 2 that we were comfortable with at the last meeting, knowing that we still had some work to do on the 3. I'll also say that, you know, there was some confusion in the ordinance about what happens when you have a yard outside of Pequannock. We were very clear in Pequannock you have a zoning permit. We were not so clear about what happens when you were outside Pequannock. We do, in fact, we did insist that they have zoning approval. The clerk's office received what zoning approval was required from other municipalities. I don't know, Mr. Scangarello, the one he's discussing about not having proper confirmation of approval. I believe, Carol, all of them submitted to you their zoning approval from the appropriate towns.
They did.
They did. I think that just
Okay.
has been the position of administration.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Brewer, manager's report?
Thank you, Mayor. Item A in my report, as introduced at the last council meeting, there is an ordinance to establish and preserve a cap bank. As previously discussed and as annually discussed, this is an insurance policy, does not authorize an additional expenditure, it just creates the opportunity should it become necessary. And the council would need to take legislative action to increase taxes beyond the 2% to the 3.5% level. So this just basically establishes the cap bank for 2023 and rolls the prior 2 years forward. That is on for public hearing and potential adoption. Next, we had the ordinance to dissolve the Fair Housing and Teen Advisory Committees. Again, this was introduced at the last meeting of the Township Council based upon either completing the task set forth or changes in law, shifting administrative responsibilities. These committees have basically accomplished their functions. As noted in my memo, should the council ever desire to reestablish them, obviously that can be done via ordinance. Additionally, the council has the power to establish ad hoc committees to accomplish any task it sees need to be established. Item C, towing ordinance. I think Mr. Boostek did a better job than I could have, so I'm just going to jump right to item D. In December of 2022, the council authorized the submission of the Community Development Block Grant for funding to support the PFAS remediation project at the blending facility. It was initially thought because of the location of that facility in an eligible district, that would have been an eligible application. As a result of participating in the meeting process with the County of Morris and its consultant, the engineer and I learned that that is not going to be an eligible activity. So as to not miss out on the funding, we shifted that to the reconstruction of Irving Street, which would be an eligible activity. So there's a resolution authorizing the submission of that grant, which has been prepared in a timely fashion to get in before the end of the month. Item E, concession providers for various parks and recreation events. This is the fireworks, the Easter event, the two Halloween events. Anytime we have a vendor selling things at an event of ours, there's a process that has to be undertaken to allow for that. So we did, as required by law, publish notice, receive applications, and a recommendation to award to all who submitted applications is on for the council's consideration also. Lastly, it's odd the things that vex you. The PV Park lockers have been an issue for a number of years, and in 2022 they were flagged by the Township Street Insurance Fund as a safety hazard. The Public Works Department did an admirable job of mitigating that safety hazard by taking steps to eliminate the issues through temporary measure. Immediately in October, Public Works leadership and I worked to try to find replacements. There was discussion over priority being given to getting lockers that were big enough to include a couple of chairs and some toys, and perhaps renting those. That would be something that people might be interested in. It's amazing how little businesses want to do. We reached out to 5 different vendors, only one responded, and I mean, we had to hound people over months to finally get the quote that's included in the Township Council's packet. Through speaking with staff, I learned some interesting things. Right now there are 90 lockers at PV Park. Roughly half of the lockers are used. Of the 45 that are used, about 80% are used by the lifeguards. They're not actually used by the patrons. So it dawned on me that the replacement of the existing 90 lockers with 90 new lockers for $62,000 that aren't necessarily used may not be the wisest expenditure of public funds. I don't know if a potential hybrid approach, maybe some smaller lockers, because unfortunately the custom lockers that we contemplated, we couldn't find a vendor that would either build them or make or sell them to us. Not having that, maybe a smaller size locker would be beneficial. Additionally, we had 9 lockers donated by a local vendor that didn't need them. It was a business that was going out and just had 9 lockers left. Potentially we could add some more lockers to those 9 to satisfy the need for the lifeguards. That could then be put indoors. The lockers are on an outer area that kind of preclude access to a covered area where you could have tables or otherwise use the facility in a positive way. An option that I would ask the council to contemplate is if we remove the lockers as required to avoid any safety issues, see what the demand is in 2023. Do some survey work with the Parks and Recreation Department, and that way we can make a more informed choice with the money as opposed to simply, well, they've always been there, so we should just put them back.
Yeah, do we need them?
I don't know if we need them, and that's the key issue. So I didn't want to make this decision unilaterally without consulting with the Township Council. So any thoughts or guidance or direction that the council would like to give, I welcome.
I like the idea of taking them down because it's a safety hazard and seeing what the demand is.
Well, I do have a question about that. So there's been several years that we couldn't rent a locker because they were all rented out.
We've never rented them.
They were just used.
They were just used.
They were just used.
People put a lock on them.
And they
Sure.
Who did you ask to rent them, I guess is the question, because I've never done that.
From PV Park, because there was like 3 years that we couldn't keep our stuff there, and then the 1 year we were. I'll ask my wife. She knows.
In my tenure, we've never rented them. That I can speak to.
Okay.
Prior to that, it's possible, but in my tenure, it's never.
But then the question, I guess, would be, they were all taken. Were they all taken because half of them didn't work, or do you know?
I don't.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
think they were
I think
ever
we
all
need to do
taken.
the survey.
They were. There was 3 years that we could not keep our stuff there, specifically when the guys were young,
Well,
and that's when you need them
well,
the
that was
most.
the big problem. They weren't big enough to really keep
And that
stuff
was going to be my
there.
next question. What's the width of the current ones, do you know?
I think they're 12 by 36s.
Okay, because it's the width,
Not what my-
again, keeping the stuff there.
And the depth.
The depth, but I think, if I remember right, it was always the plastic sand toys, the stuff that you didn't want to put back in your car that you threw in the locker and you kept there. It would be nice to have chairs, but I think that's the bulk of the stuff that you didn't feel like bringing back.
But the chairs are gonna require
I think
a
it's the
custom
chairs
locker.
that people want.
Right.
We don't even know. if
And
we
they
can
have
get
them down the shore, we should see like how they.
And that's what I'm saying, like, let's see who wants them.
Why
If we take them out and nobody says anything,
The
you
beaches
know,
have them.
we're not parking a mile away from where they are. So if you need to put your wallet or your keys, you can
But then why don't we
park
rent
it in
them?
your cars.
I made the suggestion that as people sign up, we include a question
Yeah.
on the bottom of the registration. Do you use the lockers and what do you use them for? And see how many people actually respond yes. And if we have a number, say we have 700 people by the end of June and 500 say they use the locker, well then maybe we could do something this year. But if we wait much longer, we're not going to be able to
Right.
do anything in 2023.
But
We're
then
gonna
it
have to wait.
begs to, how big a locker do you want? What size do you want? Where do you want the lockers?
Well, I think just having a locker is a bonus. So I think, again, if half of them were days, so you could use it for the day, but you can't keep a lock on it overnight, and then the other half were for rental, and see what the gauge, because I gotta tell you, whatever that number is, it's absolutely well worth it. Just to keep the, especially when you have young kids, just to keep the junk there, and not have to keep on bringing it back when you've got 1 or 2, 3 kids that you're trying to get back in the car. That's hugely valuable, and I'm gonna ask the boss, because I can't remember exactly how we did it back then.
I used to tell my kids.
Mine
go
too.
to
So
the-
we can continue, the challenge is, as was mentioned, you know, the lead time on these is a couple of months if we're gonna order these. I'm not even convinced that a phenolic product is necessarily the best product for our application.
Right.
But there are limits on the other things, and I don't know if it's a COVID impact, I don't know if it's a current way of business impact, but we were shocked at how challenging it was to engage people to even come out and look at it.
Oh, and just one more thing. So clarify from the insurance perspective is because there's too many that are outside and they're blocking?
No, the metal has deteriorated to the point where it has.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
they are falling apart.
Because they were never intended for the use that's been, I mean, they've had a good life, considering
Yeah.
the conditions they're exposed to. But they were never really intended for outdoor use.
Okay.
So do we want to wait,
I'd say table
gather
it.
more information?
I say
Do we
wait,
wanna-
start asking people.
We'll start gathering data
Yeah.
through the
Find out if any
registration
other lists
process.
or.
And we'll continue to work to try to get vendors out and contemplate.
Because even this shows them inside.
That's the majority. I don't know how
It's
to
more of
say
a
this
gym
other than,
locker.
Yeah.
you don't have people that create products for a demand anymore. You have people that have a cookie that will fit your cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's
So
whether
like
it's.
for
whether
inside
it's-
anyway.
whether it's a locker room application, a high school or a middle school application, you know. I think the people, as Mr. Dreesy noted down the shore, I think somebody has them baked them. You know, they may
If
be
you want the
made
bigger
in-house.
ones.
Yeah, they may be made in-house by the public works.
Did you reach out to any other lakes?
Yes. Most people have done away with them.
Yeah.
That's the most common response we got.
Just if they're not there, nobody's gonna.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've abandoned. All right. So I will table that for now. We'll gather the information.
Never a
and
big
continue
user of the lake, so.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't. This is an interesting
Right.
question to be challenged with. And that's why I wanted to bring it to council's attention. We've
And
been
honestly,
trying.
it would be nice to free up that space under the overhang for tables.
That's too small for tables, though.
At a minimum, I'd like the visual access. It's always concerning that there's a dark spot.
I like to monetize the lake. I mean, if we could rent them out and also rent beach chairs but can we put that as a question as they're signing up? If we had them, would you be interested in renting a locker if we had it? Would you be interested in renting a beach chair?
What I would
is it worth
suggest
our
would
time?
be ascertain the interest of having a locker, and then we could always charge for it, and if it fails, we could stop.
Yeah.
I think
Before
the first
spending
thing
the some odd $1,000.
Well, I don't know if $62,000 is the option. That's,
Right.
that's for the purposes of discussion
That's a
and.
lot of cash.
Way too
Yeah.
much.
It's a lot of locker.
It's a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, thank you very much, I appreciate what you do.
Next is public hearing. Next on the agenda is public hearing on ordinance number 2023-02. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2023-02 is an ordinance to establish and preserve a cap bank in accordance with NJSA 48:44514.
Are there any comments from council?
Nope.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion
Make that.
open.
We'll do John,
John
and
can have
Brian,
it.
you do second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has any questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none. Is there a motion to close the public
Motion
hearing?
to close.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2023-02.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
You got it, John.
No, you got it. Ladies first.
Rock, paper, scissors.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Dreesy?
Yes.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing on ordinance number 2023-03. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2023-03 is an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the Township of Pequannock and dissolving the Fair Housing and Teen Advisory Committees.
Any comments from council?
No.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
Motion open.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has any questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-03.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Dreesy?
Yes.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yeah.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is introduction of ordinance. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance for the council's consideration is ordinance number 2023-04, an ordinance to amend Chapter 352 of the Code of the Township of Pequannock and revising the license requirements for records.
Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Echo whatever Mr. Ostek explained earlier, and if there's any questions, be happy to.
Any comments from council?
Yes.
Nope. I think
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on first reading?
I'll make the motion to introduce ordinance number 2023-04.
Is
I'll
there-
second.
Roll call.
Mr. Dreesy?
Yes.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yeah.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
And if needed, I do have a hat.
What?
You have what?
I have the hat.
Oh, hat.
Oh, pull the name out of that. That's next year.
If needed.
Next on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
Beginning with Resolution R 2023-66, authorizing the acceptance of a hold harmless agreement from Jennifer and Elias Pinto for Block 3610, Lot 19, 24 Richard Street. 2023-67, awarding the 2023 licenses to participate in the police towing rotation. 2023-68, authorizing an application to the Morris County Community Development Block Grant Program. 2023-69, awarding a contract for a concession provider for various events of the Parks and Recreation Department to Sip and Swirl, Jack's Kettle Corn, and Harper's Amusements, in accordance with the request for proposals. 2023-70, authorizing the settlement of a tax appeal to Bellagio LLC versus Pequannock Township. That's for Block 2704, Lot 6. 2023-71, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. R 2023-72, authorizing the release of refundable permit bonds. And it's been brought to my attention that there's a typo in that one. The second bond holder is actually Holy Spirit. And then R 2023-73, approving payment of the itemized claims is set forth on the approving payment of the itemized claims is set forth on the February 9th, 2023 bill list and 2018 FEMA elevation escrow list.
All right, are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-66 through 2023-73.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
I'll leave it alone.
Mr. Dracy,
Yes.
Mrs. Florence Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Hurd,
Yes.
Mrs. Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Cole.
Yes. There are no items scheduled for discussion, and there are no reports and notices. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilman Dracy.
Thank you, Mayor. The Historic Commission did meet. One of the things on the agenda was the kiosk that the Eagle Scout wanted to put up, so we're trying to find a spot in between the rocks, in between the guardrail, in between
All right.
the one that the
Between
county's
rock and
doing,
a hard
et cetera,
place.
et cetera. So they're trying to pick a spot and they're trying to move some stuff around. So hopefully they'll get that done. They talked about the ongoing work at Martin Birdhouse and the new work coming up, so that's good. And then just congratulations on the retirement of our police officer we heard about before, and welcome to new officer Alcatera, I believe his name was.
Yeah.
I'm not good with names, but welcome aboard. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Dracy. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Yeah, I don't have much, just economic development. They did not meet in January, but they will be meeting in February, on February 22nd at 7 o'clock. And one of the things I discussed with some of the members is, and they want a little direction from the council, I just want to make sure we're all on the same board, same, same wavelength here, that the one thing that economic development should be focusing on, because they want direction from council, is to, look at the vacancies in town, try to match up, businesses and corporations with these vacancies, have a running list, and promote the town. So that's one of the things that they're trying to work on. So I just wanted to hear from you guys, does that make sense? And,
Sounds like a great idea to me.
Whatever they can do with building a list, with, which we've done in the past, as Ryan used to be involved in that, and John was involved in that too, weren't you? Years ago. And really go out there and start trying to promote that. So that was the main thing that I'm going to bring up at the next meeting. If anybody has anything else, let me know. And we can probably do the same thing we did with the flood committee. They had asked for the list of
New residents?
new residents.
Based
If we
on
have to
tax
start
rolls.
from scratch again, we can go to the fire list. That would probably be the best thing. So if I can put that on the table for you right now.
Sure.
To pull together a list of all the business,
Current business list by tenant as opposed to owner.
Unless there's a way to do both.
I remember,
That would be,
Melissa,
we've done it.
I also remember we had a list for those people who needed evacuation earlier or first, or promise people that are in wheelchairs or would take more time. I don't know if we still run that list, but God forbid an event happens and first aid or police start have to do evacuations. I think at that point we had the fire companies take the people out, but knowing who we need to get to first, because they're going to take a little more time. I don't know if we still have that list, or if we run that list, or if we keep that list.
For businesses?
For flood, flood,
Yeah, I'm talking EDC right now, but that's a good point.
Yeah.
Do you know what he's talking about, Adam, with the?
I've not heard of an updated list of that nature.
Okay.
I don't know what the PD maintains in terms of if you have an individual on oxygen, sometimes they register with the PD. I'm not sure how sensitive
I know,
that is.
right, there was a question about legality because of HIPAA and stuff.
If you register under certain categories, that can't be
Exactly.
further disseminated, so I can vet that and check to see if there's something like that for flood, but I'll see what we can generate in terms of a list for the EDAC for tenants and property owners.
I really appreciate
If we can get that as easily as we got the list of new property owners, I'll get that out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, as easily as we got the one for the new residents, right? That would be great. I appreciate that. And the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, they met, I wanted to say we have a few new people on EDC, so, and they're excited to do some stuff, so I'll report on that next time. Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, we have a couple new people on there as well. The first meeting went well. I don't know if I reported the officers to you yet, but they do have a new chair. Debbie DeLuca will be the new chair on that. And I believe Suzanne was going to be the corresponding secretary, but those are the only two positions they filled so far. But they came up with some good things that they want to work on there as well. And the only other thing that was asked of me regarding that is they want to see if there's a way, and I know I've brought this up before, is there a way to get information out a little bit better, like even on our website and stuff like that? Like they said, when you go to, if you want to look up the senior center or you want to look up things for seniors on our website, it doesn't really go anywhere. Maybe I'll, it doesn't have any information, it doesn't have people to call. So I was going to look into that a little bit more. I'll follow up with you on that.
Yeah, if there's an announcement or some sort of press release they like to have, the challenge is we don't engage in promoting vendors, we don't direct people to commercial enterprises. It's a very slippery slope.
Yeah. But they were just saying stuff on the senior house, like they couldn't get anywhere when they went on the website.
I would imagine that's all through Parks and Rec, is it?
It is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so.
But I'll follow up with me, if there's something we can put out there that helps the cause.
Okay.
Happy to do it.
Great. Other than that, I don't have anything new. Congratulations to our new officer. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Lawrence Lynch. Councilman Hurd.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll congratulate Hector, and welcome to Pequannock. Second, happy 90th birthday again to former Mayor Don. That's pretty cool, 90 years old. My open space, we canceled, although the rail trail continues. Lots of stuff going on there, so I'm very excited. Let's see. First aid squad. January we had... Huh?
They've been busy.
They've been busy. Yeah, I'm looking at the report. January there was 88 calls, 25 to Cedar Crest. February through Valentine's Day, 45 calls, 17 to Cedar Crest. So, that's trending for 90. Interesting thing, 3 ambulances went to Cedar Crest on Sunday, 2:12, at the same time for 3 different emergency calls. I don't know how to provide a solution to this problem, but yeah, we've got to figure something. And this has been something we've been talking about forever, and I don't know a solution. Congratulations to a new member. I'm going to mess the name up. I am sorry in advance. Dura Raza. She's a college student at Rutgers. Very cool. Let's see. Polar Plunge is going to be this Sunday at PV Park. The squad will be there. Of course, the squad, First Aid Squad, is always looking for new members. I would love it if you could donate some time. We need you. And, I heard from the boss, and she did say that we did rent lockers, and they were about $25 for the season. I do remember that. Lastly, I want to thank Pequannock Township High School. We had our Tricky Tray. It was great. It was at the Brownstone, and it was to support the music program. So I want to thank everybody that went there. And thank you, former mayor. That was great. I didn't win anything, just so you know. But I did a lot of running.
Yes, I noticed. You kept coming over to the table.
I know. You guys are on fire. Congratulations. But I want you to know that that supports the Pequannock High School band program, because we're all going down to Walt Disney World to play down Main Street, USA in March. And I really appreciate how this town comes together and helps these kids have these amazing experiences.
It was packed, 380 people, right?
It was packed.
Awesome.
Literally standing
What
room.
time does the Polar Plunge start, Brian?
10 o'clock on Sunday.
Are you plunging?
And that's all I have, Mayor.
No, I donated.
You're not wearing your Speedo when going in?
I think I'm the hot chocolate sponsor.
All right.
All right, thank you, Councilman Hurd. Councilwoman Russell.
Okay, planning board hasn't met since our last meeting. No, did we?
Yeah, we met.
We met Monday.
Yeah, just for a resolution.
Oh, it was a quick approval of the resolution for Hillview Med. Library meets tomorrow. Couple interesting things coming up with environmental. April 15th, there's a mini bio blitz. April 22nd is the Mayor's River cleanup. The week prior to that is opening day Little League, so that's fun. On October 14th is the hoedown.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Russell. As everyone said, congratulations to our new police officer Hector, and congratulations to Don Kuzer on his 90th birthday. This evening I happily performed 2 wedding ceremonies, one at 4:30, one at 5. The first 4:30 one was for Pequannock residents Tiz Jung and Shan Shan.
All right.
And the other, the 5 o'clock one was Lincoln Park residents Stan and Heather. Wishing them both couples many years of happiness. Happy to report also that this last Wednesday I was elected to chair of Two Bridges Sewer Authority for the next 3 years. Both fire departments met. I talked to Mr. Brewer about adding something to the bills that leave Town Hall that go to all residents, about that the first aid squad and both the fire departments are in need of volunteers. So he's working on something for that. Hopefully that will generate some volunteers and it'll get it out in the face of the Pequannock residents. I was the guest speaker at the Rotary luncheon on 2/8, and I think that's all I have. I'm in the Poconos this weekend, so I guess I'm going to have to leave early Sunday to make it back in time for the polo plunge.
There you go.
So, all right, that's all I have. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized and come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. No one? Next on the agenda is minutes for approval. We have November 22nd, 2022, December 13th, 2022, December 22, 2022, regular meeting, and then we have November 22nd and December 12th, special meetings.
Oh, I haven't seen them, so.
Here, want to read them real quick?
We can do it next time. That's fine with me.
You want it?
Check my emails.
You want to wait?
You guys can vote, I'm not gonna vote, I have to read it.
What do you think, Bob?
Up to you.
Well,
You don't-
everybody
you-
else can approve them.
Everybody else can approve them.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve them. I'll approve, if everybody else is okay with it, November 22nd, December 13th, December 22nd, oh, they're not in order, I'm sorry.
Here.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are, I got it.
Those are regular meetings.
Yeah, I got them all. November 22nd, December 13th, December 22nd, oh, and then the special meetings. Yeah.
I'll second.
Yep,
All in favor?
Aye.
John is going to abstain.
abstain.
There's no items listed for closed sessions tonight, correct?
That's, I haven't.
And the next item is adjournment. There's no further business.
I'll
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
8:52.
That is